Benvenuti su Data Bit by Bit, il podcast ufficiale di BitBang, dove i dati prendono vita. Vuoi rendere la tua organizzazione più data-driven e costruire una strategia scalabile nel tempo? Sei nel posto giusto. Scopriamo insieme il vero potenziale dei dati, un bit alla volta.
Benvenuti e benvenute a una nuova puntata di Data Bit by Bit. Oggi ascolteremo la conversazione che abbiamo registrato l'anno scorso con David Rabb, fondatore del Customer Data Platform Institute e colui che ha coniato il termine Customer Data Platform. In quell'occasione gli abbiamo chiesto dello stato delle CDP nel 2025 e abbiamo poi trasmesso quell'intervento al CDP Day di maggio 2025. Abbiamo deciso oggi di proporvene un estratto in vista della prossima puntata, quando avremo ospite Christopher Adelman, fondatore della Customer Data Alliance e CEO del CDP Institute, che ci racconterà il suo punto di vista per quest'anno. Ora lascio spazio alle parole di David Rabb. L'intervista è in inglese e potete attivare i sottotitoli in italiano sul nostro canale YouTube.
Well, right in January, we had this little flurry of activity where we had three acquisitions of Lytix, mParticle, and Action IQ, all of which were kind of major but mid-tier, if you will, independent CDPs. And that was quite a surprise in some level because those guys had been around for a long time. I think all of them, the reason that they accepted the acquisition was they wanted the resources of a larger company so they could continue to develop their products. That was probably the major change that we saw. There was one major funding, which was $80 million for High Touch, which, as you know, is a composable or warehouse-centric CDP. So they're adding those capabilities either through their own development or through partnerships. So there's been quite a bit, honestly, going on. And you'll notice I haven't even mentioned AI. I think that certainly we'll see the continuation of the trends that I was just talking about. We'll see more and more of the CDP integrated with the enterprise data architecture, so less a marketing tool and more an IT or data team tool, because of course customer data is important to everyone throughout the company. Real time really is the one that jumps out, but cost is another big issue. Doing things in a cloud data warehouse can be quite expensive, well, if you do all your processing there. The other thing that we think may happen, or I think may happen, is the role of the CDP may evolve to be less about data management. Okay, this is the other direction now, and more about mediating between, say, the data warehouse and all of your various activation systems. So the CDP as a tool to take your warehouse data and reformat it and make it accessible in ways that are suitable for activation systems to use. So again, putting up a real-time data layer in between the warehouse and the activation tool, but it's a shared data layer that's shared across all of your activation systems. Providing orchestration capabilities is kind of the next step beyond that. That again, many of the CDP vendors are increasingly adding those capabilities because it's something that makes sense as a centralized capability. It's not really something that's kind of native to a warehouse. Again, the warehouse vendors can add those capabilities, but it's not something that when you're building a data warehouse engine, you say, oh, wow, I'm going to have customer journey orchestration as a core functionality of my data warehouse engine. It's a very interesting industry right now. There are a lot of changes that continue on, and I still haven't mentioned AI. We'll see if we can get to this whole thing without mentioning AI, just as a little challenge. I think that as a marketer, and I consider myself a marketer, it's a little sad, shall I say, because I've lost control now of my CDP. I used to control the CDP, and the CDP was really invented for marketers, and it really specifically met the need of providing a tool that the corporate IT groups were not providing back in the data warehouse days. We're talking 10 years ago now. The good news is that the corporate IT people have gotten more responsive to marketing needs or to customer data needs. So the need for a marketing controlled CDP is a little less, but still, when I controlled it as a marketer, it did exactly what I wanted and I can make whatever changes. And I was sort of the master of my own fate. Now, if it's an enterprise tool, I'm one of several constituents that are being supported by the IT or the data team, depending on who's running the CDP. And of course, they do their very, very best to help me and give me what I need. But they, again, have other constituents who are asking for other things that may conflict. or may simply draw on resources that prevent them doing what they know I need and what they would be delighted to provide to me, except that there are other higher priority activities. So it's a little problematic for marketers to make sure that they can get what they want out of the CDP. And what that means from a positive perspective is the marketers have to be very specific and very clear about their needs and why they need what they need so they can make a good case with the powers that be to say, no, no, you really need to do this for me before you do something else for somebody else, because it is really important and I need to show how much money, for example, that will be able to make me, or what are other benefits, because there are other benefits beyond just money. I think the other thing that we're seeing very much so are new demands for different kinds of customer data to support different use cases. Again, things like sales and operations and customer service groups who need slightly different data. And of course, now we can't resist any longer talking about AI, because AI also adds its demand for different kinds of customer data, both taking advantage of different kinds of data, unstructured data that previously was really not very usable, but the AI can interpret that data and transform it into usable formats, and also providing outputs and access to data that the AI can use as tools to select better customer treatments, possibly to even create new customer messages on the fly. There's a lot of things, obviously, that AI can do. I think probably the most interesting thing has been the growth of using AI to generate campaigns within their CDP. Again, very much a natural extension of the CDP as this interface between the data and the activation tools, and the AI, of course, adding a great deal of capacity to that. The other thing that we're seeing, just as an aside, is we're seeing increasingly concerns about AI doing bad things. We've seen reports of AI cheating. There was one hilarious report where the AI was just too lazy to solve a problem, so it changed the way that it reported the results, so it always came back positive. And the AI even explicitly said they never look at the results anyway, so I can just do this and get away with it. And we've seen reports of the AI actually lying about the process of the line of thought that it's gone through. Say, well, this is what I know they want to think. This isn't really how I solved the problem, but I'm going to tell them that. So we're just increasingly concerned. There was a report about AI being susceptible to being scammed, which of course makes total sense. AI is only human after all, right? So you can social engineer an AI to do things you don't want to do. So all this agentic AI stuff that we're talking about has all kinds of risks that, of course, the smart people recognize in the industry. And now there's a new industry of companies whose mission is to monitor and, watch the watchers, watch the AI watchers, and try to keep the AIs honest. Of course, who knows if the AIs will now coordinate with each other and they will somehow bribe the watchers. But these are all the things we have to worry about, because after all, we can't spend all our time worrying about tariffs.
Grazie per essere stati con noi. Ci risentiamo con il prossimo episodio per ragionare sulla situazione ad oggi. Arrivederci.
Grazie per essere stati con noi su Data Bit by Bit. Se ti è piaciuto l'episodio, seguici e lascia una recensione. Rimani in contatto con noi su bitbang.com. A presto, con nuovi bit!